Well, hello and welcome. So good to have you here for Get Your Family Helping More Around the House and not just when you ask. I would love to start, please, with an acknowledgement to the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. They are the traditional custodians of the land upon which I join you from today, and I pay my respect to their elders across time. And I acknowledge that the custodial role they hold is very similar to household management. While my home may be confined to my property or the four walls of the house in which I live, I understand that your home is the boundaries of your country, and I'm committed to walking with you on the mission of promoting understanding, compassion, and consideration. So, for those of you who haven't met me before, my name is Eva Rado, and a little bit about who I am. You will find that I am usually the loudest in the room. I'm a fun extrovert and I will often be the one cracking the jokes and carrying on and instigating or perpetuating the banter. I've been a business owner or in the entrepreneurship world for some 25 years now, and I left my corporate life in the field of engineering because all I ever really wanted was to be a mum. And I knew that I couldn't do that working 40 plus hours a week employed by somebody else. When you hear about how my house operates now, you may find it hard to imagine that when this photo was taken back in 2017, um, the kind of week that I had had leading up to this. So those are my two beautiful girls back when they were 9 and 10 years old. And you can see that they're all rugged up and packed up. They're actually heading off to their very first school camp. And there is genuine excitement on the faces in that photo, particularly the two younger ones. You can see how happy they are. I'm not too sure what that cheeky smile on my husband's face, their dad's face, is there. I don't know what he was expecting would happen while they were away at camp. But if you look very closely at my smile, you'll see underneath those squinty eyes the bags of tiredness that were created by the late nights I'd had in the lead up to this morning, staying up late to make sure all the clothes were labeled, triple check that all the medications were sorted and organized and appropriately labeled and forms filled in. I even went so far as to make sure I had planned their first meal back after they got back from camp, and they were only going for 2 nights. I was exhausted. So that's a bit about me. Now, let's check. Are you in the right place? Well, if they call you mum, or more importantly, if they call you mum, and this has you going round the bend, then you are in the right place. Our modern cost of living is having an impact on the expected standards that we need to uphold. And like no time before in history, as mum, we find ourselves having to carry on as the default carer, the main housekeeper, and find the time, the energy, and the headspace to contribute to the household income. And this has many of us going round the bend. So today we're going to start to break those gender biases. We're going to identify what is your actual starting point, specific to you, your family, and your household. We're going to also cover my key strategy that will remove your need to nag ever again. And we're going to rewire the communication in your home. So let me know, does this sound familiar? You find yourself doing everything for everybody all of the time. You feel like slave mum. You decide this has to change. You've got to make a dent in this ongoing overwhelm. And so you might turn to Google or Pinterest and create a nice, pretty chore chart, taking into account all the chores that the experts say that your 8-year-old or 12-year-old or 15-year-old can take on. And this just turns you into police mum, as you're the one that ends up micromanaging this chore chart. And in amongst all of that, you still constantly hear, hey, mum, how do I? Hey, mum, where will I find? And you just feel more and more like household Google. Now, in my last few years of working with mums to turn the household management into a whole household responsibility, I found that there are 5 general mum archetypes. There's doormat mum, or what I sometimes refer to as slave mum, who is taking care of it all. Bribe mum, incentivizing them to help out. Bubble mum, you find yourself holding it in and holding it in and holding it in until it bubbles up and it explodes, and you might be the one throwing the tantrum that night. Guilt mum, using their empathy, appealing to their their sense of guilt that, it's all being left to you. And we've already talked about police mum, who has to closely monitor and remind and check up on and confirm. And I find generally we usually as mums have one or two that we default to. It might be that you're generally very good at not falling into any one of these until things start to feel like your doormat mum again, and then you find yourself turning into bubble mum, or perhaps you're really good at being police mum, but when life gets messy and it's just all too hard, you become bubble mum. Maybe you start off as bribe mum. It's all fun. And then you just become guilt mum and hate yourself for it. Whatever your defaults are, none of these will actually work because they don't address the core issue, which is, why is it all up to you? We find ourselves taking on the default mum role. It's all up to me. And even if you have the perfect reward chart, there's workload to allocate, monitor, and dish out the rewards. And even if you divide up all of the responsibilities, there's still workload on you to stay on top of it all. And even if you have help on tap, one of my favorite things when I start with a new client, when they say to me, oh, they're very happy to help. They're really, really good if I ask them, if I direct them, if I write out the instructions. As long as I'm available to answer the questions, it's still more workload. You still are the default boss. So you're still the one that is responsible for noticing, managing, and caring about it all. It's what I call our mother load. And yeah, in this day and age, you would think that it would be the parent load. But hashtag patriarchal society, it falls to mum yet again. Now, I'm not here to help you ask for more support or to be more effective asking for support. I don't want to make you a better bride mum. I don't want to give you um, tips to become more manipulative and a better guilt mum. I'm actually here to reduce your mother load. That's what my job is. The way that we do that is a 3-step start. We're going to identify a high load responsibility that is really frustrating you right now. We're going to assess your available resources. human resources, and we're going to predict the resistance that you expect from each person in the household, including your own resistance. Now, graphically, this is how it looks. So responsibility, resources, resistance. So think about what is your area of number one frustration in the house right now. That's your responsibility that we're going to look at. Then think about the people that you have in the household, their ages, their capabilities, their time allocation. And then we're going to look at the resistance that you expect from yourself, from your partner. If your children are older, it'll be different resistance to those that are younger. And that all will impact the resistance that you have and the resistance or the excuses that you tell yourself of why it won't work based on the expectations you have of yourself or you have taken on from society. Let's actually go to an example. We're going to look at the example, something that I hear quite often from many, many of the mums I work with, that their biggest frustration is getting dinner on the table every night. Because it's more than just cooking the food, right? It's about planning the meal, taking into consideration everybody's food likes, dislikes, allergies, intolerances, making sure it's nutritious because that's what we want to do as a mum. Then you've got to do the grocery shopping, make sure that all of the ingredients are ready, the preparation, and of course, then there is the cleanup. The resources, you've got yourself, you've got your partner, and you've got the children in the house. And one of the biggest resistances I hear is I can't ask him to cook dinner 2 nights a week. He doesn't get home till 6 o'clock most days. Or there's no way I can get her to cook dinner or to take on any of the responsibility. She's 14. She doesn't listen to me. She's just not interested. Or, yeah, I'd let him cook dinner, but I really don't want to eat nuggets and burgers every night of the week because that's all my 12-year-old is interested in. Now, getting dinner on the table, this is a big deal. I'm not expecting that this will be the first thing you tackle, but I wanted us to dream for a minute and show you the process of this 3-step start. Take a moment and just think about, what if it was just someone else's role? How much of your time would it free up, even if just one night a week wasn't up to you in any way, shape, form? There was no capacity required of you for dinner to be on the table. How much of your time would that free up? How much headspace would that create? And what could you do with it instead? How would that feel for you? Would you take yourself off to have a bath? Would you sit down with one of the others in the household to play a game of cards? Perhaps you finally get stuck into the craft you love to do. Or spend an extra hour on the back end of your business. So I did promise we're going to talk about how to make sure you never have to nag them again. And it really is quite simple. I just need you to be like a cat, a curious cat, because curiosity is the key. It's not about what you think you know or what you've worked out over years of doing this role of being the default for everything. It's not about understanding from the perspective of when you were 12 how you felt in your home. It's about really stepping back and asking how things are for them, what life looks like for them. Because sure, at 12, if your mum had asked you to change the towels each week, That would have been your reaction in the dynamic of your family growing up. But that doesn't mean that your 12-year-old is feeling the same way. And even if the response looks the same, even if the reaction seems the same, it does not mean that that's the same experience for them. So here are a few examples. Instead of, let me show you how to do it. This is how you do it. You have to just do it this way. How about stepping back and actually being curious within yourself? I wonder how they would do it if I didn't give them any instruction. Yes, I've tried all the different sponges and brushes to wash the dishes, but I wonder what he would prefer to wash the dishes with. Instead of getting all up in your head about how they don't even care enough to notice that the bookshelf needs a dust or that the washing's been hanging on the air dry for 3 days. How about asking the question, why does it not stand out to them? I wonder, and actually having the conversation. Hey, I've walked past this area and noticed the clothes are dry for 3 days. And I'm wondering, have you noticed or not noticed? And if you haven't noticed, why haven't you noticed? Why doesn't it cross your awareness? Instead of, I've asked what you want for dinner and you won't even answer, but now that I've put it on the table, you're complaining about what I make, and this is my experience every night, and I'm sick of it, and I'm never making dinner again. How about taking a step back away from the dinner table and say, hey, I feel like there's something that is a bit of a breakdown between us. I'm wondering if you know, or if you'd like to think about and come back and tell me what is stopping you from feeling like you can tell me what it is that you want to eat so that each night I don't just get sour looks, puppy dog, angry eyes, rolled eyes from you across the table when I put dinner on the table, but that I can actually provide something that you would like to eat. What stops you from actually telling me what you feel like eating? And I'm sure you can come up with and think of lots of other examples. This way of communicating is an example or a piece of actually an example piece within the structure of my Rewire collaborative communication framework. And as mums, we tend to operate and communicate in the same way most of the time, a lot of the time. We are, uh, we know, we know the best way, the fastest way, the easiest way. We've worked it out. Why can't they just do it that way? I don't have time for them to learn to do it their own way. Or why are they just lazy? I'm sick of it. I'm frustrated. That's it. I'm going to find the fix. I'm going to create this chore chart. They're just going to have to put up with it. Step up or I'm going to lose it. But that's not conducive to long-term solution, family as community, or onboarding them. What we want is collaborative communication, and we follow that acronym WHYR, WIRE. Start with what? What is and isn't working? In the example that I was just talking last about, hey, it really doesn't work for me that I sit down or put dinner on the table each night and you complain every single night that it's not what you feel like eating or you don't like it. And I have tried asking you in the morning or earlier in the week what you'd like for dinners, and it just doesn't work for me that you can't answer me. H is for how. How is that impacting them? So it's easiest to start with how is it impacting you? So each night when you then complain about dinner, I feel depleted. I have put in and tried really hard to work out something that you will enjoy. And then I just feel like I'm being put down, like my efforts aren't appreciated, and I'm tired and I'm frustrated and I'm exhausted. And each night, I don't then enjoy dinner and I feel like I'm being snappy and grumpy. And I'd really love that opportunity to get to know how your day was and what was going on. But I'm actually constantly tired and frustrated that I don't even ask. And I feel really bad about that. And this is where the curiosity comes in because the next bit is I'd really love to know your experience of each night at the dinner table when I react that way. How is it for you? Why is for yes? First of all, yes, that everyone in the household or everyone in the conversation agrees that this isn't working and can see why it's important that it gets sorted. And then problem solve. Actually have a brainstorming session, work together to come up with some different scenarios, solutions, suggestions. How about if you just went away and thought about 5 different meals that you'd be happy to have most of the time, and I will once a week pick 2 from that list. So at least 2 nights a week, I know that you'll be happy. Does that work for you? Well, no, mum, it doesn't work for me because da da da. Okay, so what's your suggestion? What would work for you? So problem solve until you get to an agreement. Okay, so this is what we're going to trial. This is what we're going to implement. This is what we're going to do to sort out this issue of what's not working. And R is the most important step. The fourth step is review. Set a time to come back and assess. Pop it in your diaries. Put it on the planner. Make sure that everybody knows that this date is the date we're going to come back and talk about this. And it doesn't have to be a structured, formal meeting time unless that works for your family. It could just be when you're all sitting down to watch telly that night or getting the kids into bed and everyone's in the bathroom brushing teeth. You just say, hey guys, it's been 2 weeks since we talked about the dinners, or it's been 2 weeks since we talked about and implemented XYZ system. Let's have a chat. Is it working? What about it isn't still working? And how does that impact each of us? And is it something that the impact is large enough and the not working is annoying enough that we need to come up with another solution? Yes, okay, let's problem solve. How can we adjust, change, tweak, amend? When are we going to come back and review? And when you implement this rewire communication framework in just one area, keeping in mind the key of curiosity, things really do start to shift. Like, wouldn't it be amazing if you didn't even need to ask for help with that? How good would it be if everyone in the household saw the household tasks as shared responsibilities for your home and no longer mum's job? I mean, can you imagine a home where you're not the micromanager, but just another member of the team? That is exactly what I help you create. And the thing I love hearing most from my clients is that, oh, Eva, can't get over it. I came home and someone else had dinner on the table. Or I came downstairs and the laundry was all done, sorted. One load was in the wash. What was dry from last week had already been folded and put away, and I didn't even have to ask anybody. It's like become a bit of a game for me. How much time can I free up for the mums that I work with? And the way that I do that is through my 6-month one-on-one support package called the Complete Household Management System. We work together on your mindset and your expectations. We practice the Rewire communication framework while we create your system, and onboard your family. And then implement your system, and there's still time for us to tweak, review, assess, adjust it so that it really works for you and your family in your home. I want to take you back to pre-camp Eva, because I look at this photo and I think this is actually what she really needed to know. But she didn't even know how different her life could be. And she didn't have me to show her. It took her so much time, so many experiments and mistakes, trying different things, giving up, having small successes, more frustration, trying again until eventually she ended up in burnout. What she did have was persistence. And now I'm happy to say that when we work together, we get you there faster and easier than it took her. Because you aren't starting from zero the way that she did. You actually have access to all the resources and strategies that I have used through my kids' growth, insights from what has worked in my home and in the homes of others that I have supported. You are tapping into a giant network of resources. And we workshop the strategies first. As an observer, I can actually be more proactive in identifying the resistances that you don't even spot in advance, so that you already have the words and the plan rather than waiting for the bubble to burst. And I am very good at spotting those potential issues that you will face moving forward. But most of all, I advocate for your needs, even when you're tempted to ignore them, because let's face it, how many of us have tried things and then come to the solution or the conclusion that, yeah, it's just easier to do it on myself. The key reason that it's harder, and we revert back to that, it's just easier to do it myself, is the fade out cycle. You know, where you start off as bride mum or maybe police mum. You've got the energy, the motivation. You're happy to sustain for some time, but eventually the overwhelm kicks back in and your motivation fades and you revert back to that key default, that usual default that is your mum archetype. When we work together, fade out cycle doesn't happen because I'm your advocate. And that's the difference that working with me makes. So the complete household management system is structured this way to counter that fade out cycle. It's not just a copy and paste. It is a create your own system where you onboard your family. We work together so that you get them excited and they actually do understand the value of taking on the household management responsibilities. And throughout this, we're troubleshooting. We implement, we troubleshoot. We implement, we troubleshoot all the way along so that we can ensure you don't experience that fade out cycle and you don't end up this time next year back exactly where you started.